you see that place? That is Donald Trump's Florida home, Mar A Largo it's called. It has 50,000 square feet. I don't even have an accurate count on the actual number of bedrooms, but enough to staff all of Washington, D.C. If he wanted. The question is, what would you do? It's warm, it's beautiful down there. It can get dicey in Washington, and I'm not just talking the political climate. To presidential historian Doug Wead on how different it will be under a Trump White House, that is, if he ever uses the White House. This place is bigger, Doug. What do you make of it?
Yeah, these presidents, Neil, love to get away from the White House. It's always been that way. When George W. Bush was elected president, he flew back alone. I think he had Karl Rove on the plane. He had this great big empty plane back to Washington. He allowed one journalist on, and that was Kenneth T. Walsh of U.S. News. So Walsh gets waved up to the front. He's going to get his exclusive chance to talk to the new president, and sits down. Instead, George W. asks him a question, and his question was, how many days did Ronald Reagan spend on the ranch? So these presidents can't wait to get out of the White House. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, it is like a fishbowl. That's pretty clear, and I know it's a beautiful place, a family comment, very, very nice there. But again, the world can see you, so you want to get away. A lot of presidents got away to Camp David or what have you, but a lot of them also have friends who have very nice homes. They use that. John Kennedy, of course, had his dad's place, and then there was Hyannisport, but he had a compound in Florida as well. How often do you think a Donald Trump, who's already hinted that he would like to split between Washington and New York, at least his wife certainly wants to be in New York and let Barron, their 10-year-old son, finish out the school year, where he is sort of spreading things out?
Yeah, here's what I predict, Neil, having watched this, and I've interviewed 14 of the children of the presidents who are living today, and what I predict is something similar to what happened to the Kennedys. The Kennedys did not like Camp David, and they loved Hyannisport, and they loved Palm Beach. They even got another home here in Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., at Hickory Hill, and they did not like Camp David. They thought it was dumpy, but before they left, they loved Camp David, and all of these families end up loving Camp David because of the security and the privacy. Barron can play soccer all weekend with his buddies, or he can play video games in his cottage, and all of the grown families would have their own cottages and grand meals together.
But in other words, you're sort of closeted away from everyone, which is, in the man, I'm sure a president is cognizant too of where he is inconvenience folks. I mean, the president can't help that when he just travels back and forth to cities. But in Donald Trump's case, at Trump Tower in the middle of Midtown Manhattan,
it shuts down the city.
It shuts down the city, is right. And I'm wondering how that factors into what they decide to do.
I think it'll be big, because having worked on the White House staff, I remembered when we'd fly into Boston, you'd shut down that tunnel coming out of the airport. We would get so much grief that the president didn't want to go. You lose a lot of votes, a lot of commerce lost, and they're going to shut down those neighborhoods. You're not going to be able to get into Shanghai Charlie's to get those, Shanghai Joe's, I guess it is, to get those great dumplings. They're just going to close down a lot of good places right near Trump Towers. So I think that's going to get old and get some backlash. Well, they have to realize
a few blocks south is a wonderful Olive Garden, but I digress. Donald or Melania, if you're listening, try it. I mean, the breadsticks to die for. But let me get your take on why it's a little different with Trump, in that some of his homes, not obviously Trump Tower, but Mar A Largo itself, in well-trafficked, well-seen, visible areas. I mean, you could argue about Hickory, of course, with JFK, and even Eisenhower, going back to Gettysburg and all. They were hidden from folks. President Bush's ranch outside of Waco, hidden from folks. I mean, this is on display, and so for them, cuts into their privacy, right? Because throngs can get nearby.
Yes, and there could be issues. There could be security issues. I mean, these Trump properties all over the world are like just a big bullseye on them. So I think this is going to be an evolving issue for him. He's very wealthy. The Kennedys were very wealthy. They ended up at Camp David, even though they didn't like it at first. And almost all the children I interviewed ended up loving the place because there were so many acres and it was so private. My guess is it'll start the same way. It won't be impressed at first and end up embracing that. But we will see. You mentioned privacy. Eisenhower, He went to some public places in Georgia where he'd play golf and take over the whole country club. So, but it's a different time today.
Very different time,
and we're we're in a tougher time.
And we've got obnoxious press people like me, like spying on you and Googling where you are.
By the way, great things happen sometimes and bad things at these resorts away from the White House. FDR died at the Little White House in Warm Springs, Georgia, and his mistress was there. We can talk about it now. They couldn't talk about it then.
No, and we're not going to go down there right now. Doug Wead, I want to thank you. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, my friend. Thanks for all your help this year on so many things, political and historic and all of that.
Thank you, Neil.